Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to make a cloth face mask. Before we start, I should note that these are not a replacement for N95 masks that are used in hospitals. These don't filter out as many airborne particles as the official medical ones, but in some situations they're being worn over an N95 mask to extend the life of them, and in some hospitals where they're in really short supply, they're used in place of the real thing. Elastic cord has been in short supply all over the United States and really all over the world. And so in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to replace that with some coreless paracord. Normal paracord works, or really any other string for that matter. But if you take the guts out of paracord, you'll have a nice flat string that's able to be easily tied. For this project, you're going to need cotton fabric, about 1 square foot per mask, some lightweight fusible interfacing, some coreless paracord. Again, you can buy normal paracord and just take the inner strands out and it's going to tie nicely. Normal sewing supplies, and then optional 16 gauge wire to make a bendable nose piece. You also need a piece of printer paper that we're going to be making a pattern out of. Let's dive in. Alright, so our pattern is going to be 6 by 9 inches. So I'm going to measure from one side, or 9, and then up 6 from the bottom. Draw in our lines. And then mark out a 1/4 inch hem on the top. This is going to be our fold line on the bottom. Then on each side we want to mark our pleats. So starting at our hem, we're going to put a mark at 1.5 inches, at 3 inches, and at 4.5. And then we're going to mark dotted lines, 1/2 inch on either side of our solid lines. So at 1 inch, at 2 inches, at 2.5, at 3.5, at 4, and at 5. And then we'll repeat this on the other side. Once you have your pattern done, you want to bring out your fabric piece and lay it on a fold, like this. I'm going to pin it down so I can have my hands free while cutting. Then go ahead and cut it out. You're going to want to cut out the same shape out of your interfacing. On a previous test, I cut it down exactly to the same size as the cloth fabric, and there's just a lot of cloth to bunch up on those pleats on the end. And so on this one, we're going to leave just a little bit shorter on both sides. So if we're cutting out our shape, we want our interfacing to be about a 1/4 inch short on either side. Once that's cut out, you want to iron this onto your fabric. So now that that's all done, we want to fold this inside out, so just in half, and then we're going to pin it and sew across this top seam here. We want to leave an area in the middle so that we can turn it right side out when the time comes. At this point, we want to cut 1.5 foot lengths of our cordless paracord. So we'll need 4 straps, 1 for each corner of the mask. And they'll tie in back, 1 behind your neck and 1 behind your head. So our first strap here at 1.5 feet. And then if this is your first time working with paracord, it often works well to just grab a lighter and just barely melt the ends. You can kind of pinch it too on cordless paracord. And that keeps the end from fraying. Because it's made out of nylon, that's the best way to prevent frays. So we'll cut 3 more of these. So now you're going to want to take your paracord, and because this is still inside out, we want to feed our end up through the spot that we left in between our hems, and we're going to pin it in each corner. So this first one, just want to line it up right underneath so it's flush with the edge, and a pin to keep it in place. On the bottom corner, same thing, right up against that hem that we just made, or that seam that we made. And repeat on the other side. It's important that these come out the bottom because we're going to be sewing across the sides, and we don't want that paracord to get caught in there. Before we head out to the sewing machine, it's a good idea to backstitch over your corners on these, maybe even a couple times, just to make sure that those paracord pieces are secure. So this is when our mask really starts to take shape. We're going to be turning it right side out. We can basically do that by pulling on all of these paracord corners. We might need some help by just kind of reaching inside and pushing it inside out as well. So in a little bit, we're going to fix this hem by tucking it inside and going around all the outside edges. But first we want to mark our pleats so that we can go over the top of those as well. So we'll bring out our pattern again. We want to line it up on the bottom, ignoring that top hem line because that's already finished. So now, with our dotted lines, we want to take that bottom one and bring it up to meet the one above that. So our fold is going to happen on that solid line. So I just take one finger and bring it up to meet the other one. And then stick a pin through to hold it for sewing. And then next one up, take that dotted line, bring it past the fold, up to the next dotted line. And that last one. One more thing to do before we go back out to the sewing machine and finish off the edges is to put our wire piece in for our nose. So we want to take about 5 inches of 16 gauge wire and make it nice and straight before we begin. Once that's cut, we want to fold back about 1 inch on each side, just to make it so we don't have sharp edges. Next, we're going to take this and put it inside of our mask. So we want to slide it up through that bottom portion that we don't have sewn shut yet. And it's going to be pushed up to the top of our mask up here. We're looking at the back side here. Don't worry, our dinosaurs will be right side up. So this is where the wire is now, right alongside this seam, and we want it directly in the middle. You can measure that out if you want to make sure that it's right in the middle. And then to make sure it stays there, we just want a pin around it. And then we're going to be sewing our seam, and we'll also sew in on each side of that so the wire doesn't slip back and forth. All right, now that our nose piece is pinned in place, and we've also pinned closed that opening on the other end, so let's head back out to the sewing machine one last time to seal all these up. So there's our finished mask. I don't know if you could see what we were doing on the sewing machine, but we sealed up that wire piece inside right here and stitched on each side so that that doesn't slip around. And sealed up the bottom with a stitch just pretty close to the edge there. This is actually a good sewing project for beginners, a great one to teach kids if you're stuck at home and don't have anything else to do. A great way to support your community around you and have some fun while doing it. Thanks for joining us in this video, and we'll catch you in the next one.